Welcome to Shred Show. I'm Sunburnt, and this is the week Hurricane Marie lit up California. Today we have a hashtag, so shout out to Shannon, Frank, and everyone else who asked for this shape in the Request a Board app at shredshow.com. This shape was designed by Hyman, seen here with Michelle Perez, and seen here ripping his 5.6 Vanguard. Something interesting about Nev is that before founding Firewire, he had already shaped boards for many generations of surfers that you've heard of, everyone from Sean Thompson and Sonny Garcia to a young Kelly Slater. Today he designs boards for the Firewire team like Timmy Reyes, who you see surfing now, as well as Michelle Perez and Sally Fitzgibbons. The hashtag traces its lineage back to the Hellfire and the Hellraiser. That's the board you see Timmy on in these clips. Those two boards, the Hellfire and the Hellraiser, are most commonly recognized for this unique step rail that they have in the last 12 inches of the board. It's something that the hashtag has as well. This kind of a rail helps you keep the planing surface of a tail this wide without having as much thickness as you would normally have in the rail. That means that you have a board that's abnormally easy to tilt and sink onto a rail given its width. This type of a rail also adds a little bit more bite to the water so that when you really do want to push into a turn as hard as you can, you're less likely to release and more likely to stay on track with a really tight radius. Looking at the bottom of this rail, we can see that the natural curvature of where it meets the hull creates this elliptical round outline. We know what this kind of a tail shape does. It's designed to feel more down in the water than a wider, more squashed off tail would that would feel more floaty beneath your back foot. The tail on this board is creative because in previous Firewire boards, they seem to have used this step rail on wider tails as a way to add grip and hold in the water to offset some of the loose releasing characteristics that can come with having a wider tail. For example, the wider diamond tail on a Hellfire that used this same step rail. But this shape goes all in with both a tail shape and rail design back here, designed for the very same thing. Looking at the tail rocker on this board, it seems just barely on the low side when compared to other similar shapes of this length. Sometimes you may find that an otherwise similar board could have a bit more rocker curve than this. That's because it can add some loose releasing feelings to the hold that you get with this sort of a tail shape. But by having just slightly less tail rocker than you might consider normal, this shape commits even further to that drivey, grippy feeling on the water. Now, since all these different words that we use to describe what different surfboards feel like while surfing them can get kind of confusing, it's probably useful to distinguish really quickly between grip and drag. Grip is what a race car has to the road as it's speeding 200 miles per hour without flying away. And drag would be the equivalent of the same race car pulling a parachute behind it. Now, if you were to fill all 5 of these fin boxes with the largest fins you could possibly find, you may feel drag in the water slowing you down. But when you're seeing these lower rockers paired with thinned out rails and tails that narrow down, that means you're likely going to feel grip to the surface of the water the same way that a race car's tires grip the road. That means that in powerful waves or in situations where a powerful surfer puts a lot of power and force into a turn, a board like this would feel very grippy on the surface of the ocean and be less likely to spin out of control even at the very high speeds that a powerful big wave would give you. Looking at the outline, we can see that even though this tail narrows down in the back, we see that the wide point in this board is probably a little bit behind center with some width carried towards the beginning of the tail. This is a hint that if you need to go longer in this shape to get the type of volume that your skill level or weight requires, you can do that without too much worry of putting the wide point too far in front of your foot where you can't control all of that width in front of your front foot. The forward outline of this board has a bit more width at about the 12-inch mark than what you would consider normal for a standard high-performance board, but it still probably is narrower than most of the hybrids that people are surfing today. When you see these narrow pointy noses, you know they're primarily designed just to get out of the way and be whippy and flingy in turns without hanging up anywhere. And then looking at the nose rocker, we kind of see the same thing. There's less nose rocker curve than what you'd consider normal for a standard high-performance shortboard, but still probably more than most hybrids. With this kind of a curve in this board, you wouldn't expect to get that increased speed that you get when the nose rocker is flatter, but you could definitely expect to comfortably make steeper drops without digging your nose in the face, and you could expect comfortable re-entry into the face after turning up into the lip without purling. Flat up in the nose, slight beginnings of a concave, double concave coming on quick, getting deep very quickly. Look at this in a surf shop and you find that the double concave is actually quite deep on either side, even at this point in the board. Not getting any deeper as it goes through the fins, slightly shallowing up, slightly shallowing out the tail. The pad on this deck is called the Native, and it does not have an arch support, as you can see, so when you step on this, you feel the natural curvature that the dome of the deck makes. Deciding what you want to feel on the deck of your board is easy. You just walk into a surf shop, drop a pad on the floor, and then step on it. What you're looking for from pad to pad is the difference in how the arch support feels and in how the tail kick feels. Pads like Evan Gieselman have a more narrow arch support, while pads like his brother Eric's have a wider arch support. In terms of tail kicks, this one is called a ramp, which means it just angles backwards like this. That's different than the Bruce pad that we talked about last episode because it had that ramp, but then at the very top it had a vertical wall. DaKine also makes an interesting bull tail kick in pads like the Clutch, which is unique because the ramp actually curves around the edge of the pad, so that when your foot is all the way back on that traction pad, you don't just feel a ramp on the side of your foot here, you actually feel a ramp on your toe and heel because of the way that it curves around the trailing edges of the pad. Whatever pad you like comes down to your personal preference. More on these in a few minutes. I think a lot of intermediate to advanced surfers would like this as an everyday shortboard in waves overhead all the way down to about waist high, as long as the waves have a little bit of a pocket and a little bit of power to them. You'd probably especially like this if your style of surfing is more on the face of the wave and not above the lip. The way that width and thickness run in these shapes make them really useful for surfers who may weigh a little bit more than most people their height, or are a little bit closer to intermediate than they are to advanced. If you're closer to the advanced level of surfing and you surf with a lot of fin release and rail control as you re-engage your fins, and if you surf more in and above the lip, you may really like getting on a Hellraiser just a little bit more than one of these. One last comparison, the Unibrow, because a lot of people have asked how this board stacks up against it. That board has a bit more width in the back half, and I think you can look at it as a slightly easier board to surf than this, with a bit more versatility when the waves get weaker. Now, Shred Nation, to possibly win one of the Geiselman Brothers pads from DaKine, drop a comment down below telling us where you will buy your next surfboard. Tell us the name of the shaper, the surf shop, or the brand that you'll go directly to next, and at the end of the week, we'll pick 2 of you to win one of these. At the end of the week, we'll also pick a 3rd comment to win some Lowdown sunglasses from Smith Optics. Shred Nation, that is it for this episode. We hope you have got your own Hurricane Marie sending waves to whatever part of the world that you're in right now. We will see you soon on Shred Show.